Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today I've got Tim Porter, who's the General Manager at Timberspan. We're going to sit down in this episode and explore procurement models, prefabs, timber, and a little bit of Tim's personal life, hopefully. We'll try and get into it, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tim. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you so much for making the time for being here. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from,
Yep.
how you're involved in the construction industry.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm Napier boy, born and bred. Grew up there. Dad was an engineer as
Hawke's
well.
Bay?
Yeah, Hawke's Bay. So,
yeah.
Dad was an engineer and I was going to be a physio right up until I was last couple of terms of the seventh form before finally Dad's persistence that you've got an engineer's mind, son, got through to me and I decided to do engineering. So I did a degree in civil engineering and sort of structural side of things, and then carried on and did a master's in fire engineering. So that was my sort of trade, so to speak. And then worked as a fire engineer for a few years, found out that I enjoyed sort of the business side of things and innovation and things a bit more than fire engineering. And so, went overseas in my OE, got into management consulting.
Where'd you go?
UK, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Had 5 years in the UK and was sort of working on various things around there, including a secondment to Doha, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. So you spent some time in the Middle East?
Yep. It was an interesting...
That must have been interesting, yeah.
Oh, it was very interesting.
I spent 5 years in Dubai, yeah.
Ah, right, cool.
I did my engineering in Dubai.
Oh, right, there you go. Yeah.
Before I went to UK and came here, but
Yeah.
similar story, but just different order.
Yeah, different, yeah. And then it was time to come home, and I took a job with Home Solutions. So Home Solutions are a product development and sort of testing company based out of Christchurch, and joined the team when there were sort of 17 of us. And then 12 years later, after leading their construction sector team and helping grow the company, we got to about, 90 or something by the time I left. But being a Hawke's Bay boy, the call to home was pretty strong. So opportunity came up with Timberspan and I jumped at it. It's really nice convergence of everything I've done in my career to date.
So project management, structural engineering.
Yep. Bit of fire, bit of prefab, offsite construction, mass timber.
So what did Timberspan actually do for the industry?
Timberspan? So we provide timber superstructure and kit set buildings.
So do you guys design, manufacture? No, design, fab?
We handle the design. We process LVL predominantly. So we get LVL from Nelson Pine, and then we have a CNC machine, and we can process that into superstructure. And we're talking large format LVL. So one of our sweet spots is doing industrial buildings.
So for people who don't know what LVL means.
Oh, yep. Sorry, laminated veneer lumber. So
Thank you.
Laminated veneer lumber is when you take a log and you peel it into layers, kind of like you see in plywood. But LVL, you run all the grain in the same direction, and then that you glue it together in big blocks, and that makes it a sort of structurally superior material. It's stiffer, it's stronger, it has higher bearing capacity, and so that means you can push it further than other timber products like glulam and CLT and things, and you get better spans out of it, which hence Timberspan. And so, for example, we do a range of sort of standard designs of industrial buildings, portal frames, and we can go up to like a 50-metre clear span without breaking a sweat. Put them up lightning fast, and they're cost competitive. They go up.
So
super
mostly for residential, commercial?
No.
You do service
industrial buildings, commercial buildings.
Yeah, commercial buildings.
And we're doing a lot of sports courts, covering sports courts and gymnasiums, that sort of thing. Now some pretty interesting opportunities coming up in retail. Like
for the Woolworths and...
sort of any retail application really. But if you've got a large open area with no columns, it gives you really great utility in terms of how you can use that space. Gives you great long-term flexibility in terms of chopping and changing it. And so, it's quite exciting. There's lots of cool opportunities. We also do post and beam structures as well, so multi-story buildings. Sorry. I'm sure I saw you put that on silent. Oh, is that your laptop?
Sorry, there's one of my team trying to get hold of me.
Yeah,
I apologize.
that's okay.
I'm fucking sure I put that. I forgot to put that on mute.
Yeah,
That's never happened before. My laptop ringing.
yeah.
That's the first time.
Okay.
Sorry. Where do we leave off? Sorry.
We also do multi-story structures. So
Yeah, okay.
post and beam structures for medium-rise buildings. I've currently got Tonga House in Hastings going up, which is an exciting build with LT McGuinness.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool to be getting into that realm as well. And again, just the LVL.
So you guys predominantly focus on supply of timber, not the actual installation.
No, we don't do the install. We're a bit more than supply, right? So what we're trying to do is provide solutions. Really understand what the customer's after, because we supply timber, but that's only a part of it, right? We understand that people want a building at the end of the day. That building needs to stack up. It needs to stack up from an economics point of view, needs to stack up from a user point of view, needs to stack up from a program point of view. And so if timber...
From an engineering point of view.
From an engineering point of view.
Most importantly.
Yeah. And so then, if timber can then be part of that solution, then great. But, ultimately the building's needs come first. And that's what Timberspan has always been about. That was one of the things that attracted me to the company, is they were coming at it from the building point of view, not just, hey, we've got this cool material, what can we do with it? Which I think is a bit misguided, because at the end of the day, people need a building.
Yeah, fair enough. That's quite interesting. Yeah, no, it's pretty exciting space to be playing in currently in New Zealand.
Very exciting.
Yeah. There are people that have interesting views on timber as well, like quite varying views on timber.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. It goes like, I had a guest on who was completely against timber, and his logic was that you're actually cutting down trees, so you're actually not a sustainable product.
Right. Okay.
And he was advocating for aluminium builds, which
right,
and using aluminium as actually structural elements.
Okay. That's intriguing. Aluminium has its own drawbacks, but I don't know enough about that to comment.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was, if you can build an airplane out of aluminium, and people are comfortable flying in aluminium tin cans, across nations and across ditches, why can't you build houses out of them when it's a good recyclable product?
Yeah, sure. It's an interesting argument. Like I say, I've not looked into it. I'm an engineer. I wouldn't comment without knowing the detail. One thing that scares me...
Something to think about.
Yeah, well, the melting point of aluminium is what scares me in that. But that's another matter.
Yeah. So he's building prefab houses off aluminium.
Cool. Okay.
Adaptable structures. Michael Murphy, you should check him out.
Okay, yeah, will do. Yeah, sounds interesting. I'm all for people trying to innovate and do things differently. Like, the construction industry needs fresh thinking.
Tell me about it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Tell me about it. Like, long story. Well, we focus on innovation as well as part of strategic planning, but I won't get into it now. Right. From your project management experience in the past, right? So where do you think price versus value sits in from a New Zealand standpoint, right? So fixed price.
Yep.
Fixed price.
Yep.
We all know in New Zealand people love the whole fixed price model, which is great. Provides cost certainty.
Yep.
But it doesn't provide risk certainty.
No. Yep.
Never does.
No.
Never does. And that's probably why there's a lot of projects in delay, so on and so forth. You reckon it kills innovation?
Oh, 100%. When everyone's being pushed down on their fees and being forced into a corner of doing things on a minimum margin, then where does the budget for innovation come from? There's no reward. You're not incentivized to do it. And so when there's no reward, my view on that is that just fear and greed take over. Like, everyone gets very protective of the bit that they have, and they want to hang on to it. So there's the greed in favour, and then fear of stepping outside their scope, fear of having ideas that might then come back on them. And so everyone just stays in their box, does what they've always done, and tries to get away with doing the minimum so that they can make the most money they can with the least risk possible. And that is no recipe for innovation, because you need to be able to take risks. And Clients often don't want people taking risks on their projects. They don't, I've heard many times people say, I don't want to pay you to learn. And so you just end up stuck, and you get the stagnation of the industry that we've had over the last, must be 80 years now, where there's no real improvement in productivity. There's no real meaningful improvement in how we build, which is a real shame, and it's costing us as a planet.
What can we do to change that?
What can we do to change it? Well, we can shift.
But traditionally, this is how we've done it. Should be right. This is how we'll always carry on doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think,
if we carry on like this, and to make things worse, we are an industry that's completely boom or bust. There's no in between. Right. Currently, we're going through a massive bust cycle. I'm sure you're feeling the pain. I know. I'm feeling the. I'm feeling the. Feeling the pain. So I know I'm feeling the pain. So it's like, what can we do? Well, how do we influence positive change in this industry?
I mean, it's a big question. There are many people who are trying to do that. I think part of that comes from funding, in terms of funding for research and development, and how allowing people to sort of mitigate the risk of things not getting wrong, of things going wrong. I think also one thing that kind of would help is more repetition of project teams. And if I think back to my career as a consultant, I had some really fun projects where we came up with some really cool solutions, and we delivered some really cool buildings, and they were fun teams to be a part of. And those teams never reassembled ever again. And so
they just got dispersed.
They just disperse. Everyone gets onto new projects, whatever. Those companies might have come together again, sure, but it's new people. All that learning that's come about in terms of that was a good solution there, the better understanding of how to work together, all these things, you're just starting from scratch every time in a project. And I don't think people are ever taking the time to sit down and say, well, how can I make your life easier on this project? Architect, engineer, to client, to project manager. Everyone just comes in, like, I know my lane, I'm staying in it, I'm doing what I'm doing. And
it's funny you should say that. So that's probably one of when Fletcher were in their glory days. I wasn't around working for Fletcher at that time. Stories I've heard again. Is that they actually had a core group of people that actually went from project to project to ensure that the core of the structure got built well, and according to spec, and according to plan, according to whatever. So those core group of people just went from project to project. And when then Fletcher's, where apparently things went south, Fletcher's when they actually got one too many projects, and that core group of people got disbanded, exactly like you said.
It makes sense, right? And of course, the thing is, as you get to know each other better and as you work together, and I did have some experience in this, particularly in the industrial space back in, it's scary to say, but like 20 years ago in my fire engineering career, when I was doing a lot of work for Goodman Property, repeat industrial buildings, generally the same contractors, the same engineers, same architects. They just had a small pool that they selected from, and so you did get some repetition then. And so
that's Simplicity's way of working, eh?
And I'm
Shane Burley.
Yeah, I know Shane, and I'm a big admirer of how they approach it, because they've identified the formula. You get people working together again and again. They get to know each other. They don't
trust
need to
each other.
Trust each other. They don't need to waste time on the things that they know about and that they've done before, and then they get to unleash the creative energy on the bits that matter. And then you do start to get progress and improvement, and you can start to get data to measure against to then understand the impact of the change that you've made. And certainly in my time at Solutions, where it was all about evidence-based design and testing everything that we did and creating data, when you get data and you can get the insights from that data, you can then start making meaningful change. And I think with most projects, it's one-off project for one-off fee. No one's trying to mine the data, and it's a real problem. I mean, there are things changing in that regard, AI, all these different tools. You might know a thing about that more than me, Andy. But so there are things shifting, but ultimately you need some clients with a bit more appetite and understanding of how to incentivize risk taking with their consultant team, and then that needs a bit more sort of collaboration and doing things that are a bit unconventional, and engineers being happy to put a bit of their fee at risk if they can create that saving, or even how it's built, having incentivization around the program schedules, which then needs good management to make sure people aren't cutting corners.
You need a good program schedule to start with, mate.
Yeah, well, that's true.
There.
Yeah,
Right?
That's true.
Start with the basics.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, you and I both know it's most of them don't exist.
Yeah, well, no, I
You
know.
use it to sign a contract, then you put it in your bottom drawer. Where it goes.
Yeah.
Program? What are you talking about?
Yeah, one of my
I don't know
friends.
what I'm doing.
One of my friends in construction said, "Oh, yeah. Well, the thing about programming is the sooner you fall behind, the more time you have to catch up," which I just thought was an interesting way.
Mate, you got to give some credit to this friend.
Yeah, totally. It's a good philosophy.
It is a good philosophy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Question.
Do you reckon our forms of contracts have anything to do with it? Lack of innovation.
Yeah.
Pushing risk downhill.
Yeah. I mean,
The way
certainly, I think in terms of the way scopes are agreed, because what I've seen in construction teams, and it's also interesting to contrast that with having spent the last 12 years working more in the manufacturing world and working with manufacturing engineers and people who come from other disciplines, is that there's far more collaboration in around those blurry scope items, because everyone's aiming for the same goal of improving the product or whatever the case may be. And so you get people leaning in and trying to bring a bit more systems thinking to it, where people are trying to understand the interfaces and where the compromises need to be made. And I think I've definitely witnessed, it's probably one of the worst examples I ever saw was when I was in the States, where people just protect their scope and they just stay within those confines. And if there's any sort of blurry issue, just like, oh, that's not me, well, that's not me, that's not me. And so the issue just sits there on the table and nothing happens, and the risk and the consequence just keeps building until, you've got a problem. Because people are worried about the liability, right, that they're going to attract, as opposed to saying, well, hang on.
If I'm protecting my scope, it's a lot easier to process a variation then, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, that is the mindset, but then contracts influence those mindsets.
Yeah, 100%. Whereas if, the client's willing to say, look, guys, or project manager, whoever's in charge, right, here's a problem, and everyone's got to lean in a bit on this, and if we solve it, cool, and no one's going to be held accountable for a bad idea, you've got to come in, everyone's going to bring everything they can to the table, all their knowledge and experience, and we're going to see if we can work as a team to solve that. And I just don't think that's common enough.
Well, how many project management companies in New Zealand do you think we have that have that attitude?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been a bit too long out of those games to know, but not many, right?
Yeah, so it's a different sort of mindset. I actually know a few. Raji was here a while ago. She's from Vastra Consulting.
Yeah.
She and her team are great.
Yeah, well,
they're great. There are pockets of really good.
And it's all in pockets, and it comes down to the people and the individuals and their way of working, as opposed to it, people being trained on this and educated that this should be the norm and this is how we do it. And instead, everyone just comes in, gets a bit of experience, and then cracks on. And I don't think we train our people enough in how to really innovate and solve problems, truly understand requirements and needs.
Well, we don't necessarily train them to innovate, but we create an environment for them to innovate for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The training may not exist, but the environment does.
Yeah, well, and that environment generally exists when things go wrong.
Exactly.
When there's a problem on a construction site, and something's been unforeseen, and then you get everyone coming together with all their ideas. And my issue with what happens then is it's generally, how do we fix it now in the quickest way possible with whatever we've seen before? And you then get the nature of unintended consequences, because no one thinks about the downstream, because they become solution focused. Whereas actually, when you want good design and good problem solving and good innovation, you need to understand needs. Like, what are your requirements, right? So if you said to me, hey, can I borrow a pen?
Sure.
Okay, here's a pen, right? But what if you need to sign a check? Remember when those existed? It couldn't be a green or red pen. So, do you need a blue or black pen, right? So then you start getting into it, but you're like, well, hang on, I just need to write something down. Oh, so a pencil would be okay. Or maybe even a piece of charcoal if I've got one handy. But if you look at the need, then all of a sudden you've got all these different ideas about what the solution could be. And what happens time and time again is everyone gets to, here's a solution, here's a solution, here's a solution, without ever really having a deep enough understanding of the need from the client's point of view, from the architect's point of view, from the engineer's point of view, from the builder's point of view, to then, when you do that properly, the answer presents itself. It's obvious.
But that's a project manager's job, isn't it? The project management consulting company's job. That's what they should be doing.
Arguably, yeah.
Arguably. But I'll tell you the good thing about New Zealand, right? When I said we create the environment to innovate, and I strongly believe that's true.
Yeah.
That's because if you gave me the example yourself, you said when you were in the States, people protected their patch and protected their scope. Happens a lot in the UK as well. You know, I'm a planner. I will do nothing else apart from planning. This is what I do. I am a quantity surveyor. This is what I will do. I'm not going to do anything else. You know, somehow we don't have that mindset in New Zealand.
Okay. I've encountered plenty of it.
Have you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I reckon there are projects where, I mean, if you really wanted to, okay, I know multiple people that have gone from project like admin positions into health and safety roles. Like the opportunity exists if you go and looking for it.
Yeah, I'd argue the opportunity exists.
But if you also want to cross train into a different discipline, that opportunity exists as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah,
it comes down to the individual, obviously, like you and me, and you know, I turned around and said, oh yeah, I want to be a planner, but in one of my previous roles, they said, oh, we don't have any project managers to look after this job, and the builders, it's not a massive job. It was about a $4 million job, but I said, oh, yo, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, have a crack. Yeah. So I think there is
that would never happen overseas.
You're right.
Never happen.
There is more generalization.
Yeah.
You know, and what I mean by that
opportunity to cross train.
You can be a generalist, right?
Yeah.
You know, people with kind of technical depth in an area, but they can be broad across different topics. And I think that's fair to say that because being smaller and being exposed to more things, and I think also, at least when I was going through education, the way the education system worked, you got exposed to a broader range of topics.
Yeah.
You know, as a civil engineer, you did general engineering covering all civil topics until your last year where you became a structural engineer or a fluids engineer or whatever. Whereas, you know, meeting my colleagues in the States, whereas like, no, they became a structural engineer right from day one. And so their exposure to
everything else is,
you know, water and civil construction and stuff.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? That's literally the mindset that they take.
There's another specialist who'll deal with that. Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into a little bit of something different.
Okay. Yeah.
In your opinion, why do you think prefab hasn't taken off, specifically in New Zealand?
Yeah.
You know, we've been talking about this shit for a long, long time, eh?
Yep. Yeah.
You know, there's so many prefab specialists out there. There's companies that are trying to set up prefab factories out there. Yep. We still revert back to stick builds.
Yeah, totally.
Over and over again.
And I think there are definitely pockets where people are doing well with prefab and offsite solutions, and often they're doing so well they don't need to crow about it. So there's pockets there where that's working. And I think most people, when asked this question, they'd say, oh, it's pipeline, you know, we haven't got the pipeline. And I think that's a bit misguided, and it's sort of blaming other people. You know, it's becoming a sort of a victim of the situation, you know, if only we had the projects. And I think what I've seen, two main issues at play, and I should say this isn't just New Zealand. This is...
worldwide?
No, not worldwide. I think it's something to do with colonialism.
You
see it. Right. You see it in Britain, you see it in North America, you see it in Australia, you see it in New Zealand. You know, Scandinavia, Europe, Asia, you don't see it as much. So there's something there about a British history, I think, I've not done the research on that. It's just a speculation. But
That's all right. It's your opinion, mate.
Yeah,
So, off goal.
But one thing is that people don't focus enough on interfaces and connections. And so they think, oh, we're going to make this wall, we're going to make this panel, we're going to make this volume. And the truth is, that's the easy bit. Like, all you're doing is taking what would normally be in a building and just making it somewhere else. But then how that actually becomes to be part of the building and connect in a way that makes sense and is simple and easy and makes life easy on site and all these sorts of things, that's quite difficult. And, connections are always an issue. And so, generally speaking, construction practitioners aren't good at solving those connection issues. And so you get the people with the wrong skill set trying to solve it, and they battle and they struggle. And
so you reckon it's more of a manufacturing mindset that you kind of bring into?
Yeah. And having spent a lot of...
This is the cross-functionality that you need, right?
Yeah. And
the blend between manufacturing and construction.
Yep.
Where you solve these connection issues, these interface issues that you're talking about.
And having spent a lot of my time, working with mechanical design engineers, and when I say mechanical, I'm not talking, MEP engineers as you would in the construction industry. I'm talking to mechanical designers, people who've designed race cars and jet boats and airplanes and things, and their understanding of how to make connections and different techniques for making connections is just eye-watering. And the sort of the breadth of solutions that they can bring and adapt into the construction space, it's just there on a plate. And yet, but in my experience, most of these companies aren't engaging those people to come and help and sort of blend it with that construction practitioner. There's been plenty of gone completely the other side and have said, oh, no, we've got all these people from a manufacturing background and you construction people don't know what you're talking about, and they come in and try and be a complete breath of fresh air, and then they fail because they don't understand that, making buildings is not like making cars, it's not like making airplanes, and there's actually unique things that relate to the construction industry, and that there's still a craft to it, and there's all the different adaptability and flexibility that's required in terms of the finish of the building.
But it's not that complex, though.
No. When you get the right fusion of experience, you can solve it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, technically speaking, it's not that complex. When you put in some pipes in the ground. Yep. Put in a substructure.
Yep.
Put in some frames up.
Yeah.
Wrapping up the cladding, putting a roof on. There aren't any moving parts in it. Not necessarily.
But
you look at a race car, you've got 1,000 moving parts.
Oh,
They all have to fit and work together.
Yeah, but that's where I'd say no. You do want moving parts. You want mechanical connections. So there's been some great examples of using.
You mean seismic joints?
No. I mean of mechanically interfacing connections. So. Using interlocking jaws to create a structural connection, kind of like, that's one of the primary mechanisms in the Hilti column connection. If you've seen that in the mass timber world, I've seen other.
I'm not massively exposed to the mass timber world, so this is an education for me.
I've seen other people do it with structural insulated panels that you come together and then there's a camming connection. So you turn a key and there's a sort of a set of cams, your teeth that connect and bind in, and then pull it all tight and snug. And so rather than having to be doing drilling or bolting or anything, it's just turn a key and it locks in. So I could go on and on.
So you mean it's like the IKEA solutions?
Yes.
It's the IKEA solutions, whatever. Yep. So you assemble an IKEA bit of furniture and they're all mechanically connected.
Most to some extent.
To some extent.
But there's so many of those options out there that with a bit more exploration could bring great benefits to the construction industry. One of my personal pet peeves is people who do wall panels, and they almost always have this double sole plate where they'll have a, what I mean by a sole plate, the base plate of the wall. And so what they inevitably do is they'll go put that base plate out on the site, they'll measure off that, they then make their walls to fit, and so then, but the wall itself needs a base plate in it for manufacturing purposes and transport purposes, and they come and sit it down over the top, and then they have a complicated screw system to connect it all together. And I'm just like, there's just so much waste in that. You're using double the timber that you need. You're using more fasteners than you need. You've got the back and forth from site. Like, it's just waste. And that's...
So how would you eliminate the waste in that situation?
Oh, mechanical connections. And there are some good options out there. There's some other ones under development that are sort of looking to solve that problem. But the question is, you've got to say, how can we eliminate this waste, not just accept it?
Yeah.
And there's too many companies out there that just accept it. Right, we've got a solution. Let's go. And it's like, no, think about that. Like, think about all the waste and the double handling and the true cost of making that connection. If you really add that up over again and again and again, it's worth investing some money to do that better. Be better, and it drives me bonkers when I see wasteful use of material, wasteful use of time. It's just, it cripples us.
So are those like things that you are focusing on as Timberspan?
100%. I mean,
mechanical connections.
Well, yeah, we'll be
reducing
exploring
waste.
that. To some extent, we've even got, due to the simple nature of the portal structures and the designs that we've come together, right now, I think we're okay. Can we do better? Of course.
We can always do better.
Yeah, and we've got, we've started doing some prefabrication of certain elements, and longer term, we may get into doing line walls and these sorts of things. And should we do that, 100%, we'll be looking at mechanical connections. I can't wait to be able to put out walls that don't use a double sole plate.
Yeah, right. And that's obviously going to save time during construction, save time, reduce waste.
Yep.
Overall, absolutely beneficial.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. So, I don't think you still answered my original question, though.
Which was the original question?
Yeah,
There's been a few of them.
We went on a few tangents there. Yeah. So prefab's not taken off.
Yep.
Why?
Oh,
in your opinion?
Because people are blaming pipeline rather than solving the problems they need to solve.
Yep.
And that's...
So the whole summary is...
Connections.
Innovate.
Yeah, innovate and develop something that's flexible to other people's use, right? And I've heard this a couple of times from, this is a few years ago now, but from like large scale consumers of residential buildings, where they'd been going around talking to prefab suppliers about, can you help us? Because we're getting frustrated with all these different prefab solutions and none of them actually solve the problem and they don't deal with the interfaces, all this stuff that I've already talked about. And the prefab suppliers basically said, oh no, you're wrong. And I was like, they're the customer. Like if they're telling you your system doesn't work for them and they're going to buy thousands off you, why. Maybe adapt yours to meet their needs.
Sure.
And just this commitment to their product, as opposed to, no, hang on, there's a need, there's an unmet need here, and if we can solve that need, we've got a business opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's not enough people spotting needs. They're just too focused on thinking their solution is the bee's knees.
So funny, just the previous guest that I had, Mahesh, who was actually running for MP for Tamaki.
Oh, okay, yep.
He told me something that actually stuck with me and will stick with me forever, I think. He said, be obsessed with the customer.
Yeah.
Kill your ego. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Did you watch that?
Yeah.
Mate, the number of times he sat there and told me that, I was like, yeah, you're right. Fuck. Yeah. I'm like, but Mahesh, I've got a great Andy, I don't care.
Yeah.
I understand what your customer needs. But I'm like, I've got a great product. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Well, and
funny shit.
And that again, I mean, all the topics we're talking about is egos playing a part, where people aren't just checking their ego at the door and saying, what's the best answer here? And recognizing that I probably don't have it, which is a humble position to be in when, as an architect, as an engineer, you're trained to be the person with the answer. You're trained to provide certainty.
Solutions,
And so then to be able to say, hang on, no one's ever done this before, therefore no one knows what they're doing, and that's actually liberating, because you can't be expected to have the answer because no one solved this. Lean into that. And people find that suffocating as opposed to intoxicating. Oh, wow, think of all the possibilities if we've just got this, sort of limitless creativity that we can use to solve this problem, because no one knows.
Yeah.
And it's like that old thing about, if you want something done, ask a child, because they haven't got all that constrained thinking upon themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do, but it's possible.
100%, fully agree. So, Tim, there's a whole buzz about mass timber, the usage of mass timber in construction. Where do you think that whole buzz is coming from back into the industry?
Where's the buzz coming from?
Yeah. Why?
Well, why? I think, ultimately people want to leave the planet in a better place than they left it. I don't think you
Is that true, though?
Well,
you're
within
trees.
construction. Yeah. Within construction, I don't think you get into, building and creating these things without wanting to make a meaningful impact and make a difference to people and to their lives. And so with everything that's been going on the planet and use of resources and things, and people being increasingly concerned about the use of concrete, and I mean less so steel, but definitely concrete.
Concrete is the most unsustainable product on planet Earth. Yeah.
So when timber came along, people went, here's something, and look, it's different, and we can start using it in different ways, and got really excited about that, which was cool. And certainly in New Zealand,
It's still not extremely sustainable, though, is it?
Well, you can regrow your material, so
True.
I think that makes it sustainable. You're not, you can replace what you can consume, whereas.
But I don't think we are replacing it at the same rate we are consuming it.
Well, no, that's why we need to plant more trees, right? And then there becomes a sweet spot, right, where it becomes sustainable. And certainly some of the practices where you've got these people sustainably harvesting these hardwood trees that have taken 1,000 years to grow or whatever, then that's that's not okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely more sustainable and got more longevity to it than, I mean, how do you replace a quarry? Like, good luck. And so steel, of course, steel's recyclability is a good point for steel, right? And the thing about building is, like, different materials have their place, and so use the right material where it makes sense. And if you can do something that is going to have a reduced impact on the planet, then you should generally at least consider it.
Fair enough. I fully agree with that view.
Yeah.
So where in our industry are you seeing the adoption of timber coming into play?
I mean, all over the place. And I think most notably, and almost to the detriment of mass timber, I think people have been trying to use it for really high-end buildings.
Structurally?
Structurally, architecturally, people have been enamoured with timber. Certainly in the early days, people were seeing it as kind of panacea and wanting to use it wherever they could. And I think that's led to some poor decision making. Now, to be fair, that goes back to the innovation conversation we're having. People are trying to innovate, and they've learnt some lessons, right? And in particular, again, coming back to connections, where lots of the mass timber buildings that have gone up that haven't gone well, the connections have been a problem, either expensive to make or have taken longer on site, have led to construction delays, and it's really hurt the reputation of timber, I think. And from speaking to various consultants in the industry at the moment, I think there's people sort of licking their wounds a little bit, trying to understand, well, where do we do better next time, and also clients going, oh, geez, we've tried that. How do we improve on that? And so that's for those really high end, very architecturally beautiful buildings, whatever. But I think there's plenty of people doing good things with timber with more middle of the road buildings, and I think probably for the next wee while that's where it's best suited. I mean, certainly with Timberspan doing industrial buildings, these portal frame structures, that makes a lot of sense. But also these sort of 3 to 4 story post and beam buildings. I mean, LT McGuinness are now building this sort of third variant of this post and beam structure that they've settled on using LVL. And when a company with the reputation of LT McGuinness and the savvy that they've got is doing something for the third time, probably tells you it's working for them. And so, those are beautiful buildings. They might not necessarily be on the cover of Architecture Weekly, but you've got
that doesn't matter, mate.
exactly. Check your ego at the door, right?
Yeah,
Like,
like if you're doing something to be on the cover of a magazine, you're fucking doing something wrong. So
bingo.
100% doing something wrong.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's not the reason you build beautiful buildings. That's not the reason you and I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
No,
No.
I don't think either of us care about that. So
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And so, when it's used properly and in the right way, then you get good buildings. And again, the answer is the building should make sense economically from a program point of view. And then if you get the carbon stuff thrown in as a bonus, well, happy days.
you know, there's an interesting job which you and I are all very aware of that just completed very recently, where they used timber piles. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Have you walked through Auckland Airport when they were building the car park?
Which car park?
You know, the new international car park that's coming.
Yeah.
That entire building
Yeah.
is built with timber piles. Look like a fucking red
Piles or poles?
piles.
Piles. Oh, really? No, I didn't see that. Yeah.
Yeah, piles. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's timber piles.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
So
Yeah.
so they opted for timber piles.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming there's increased number of piles because it was timber piles. But
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, I don't know the structural design of it. I don't know the designs. I haven't seen it.
Yep.
But all I remember is walking through Auckland Airport, having a peek into the site, and going,
Yeah.
no, obviously curious.
Yeah,
I'm always
yeah,
curious.
yeah.
I'm
I
always
mean,
fascinated.
right-
And you see huge
Yeah.
timber piles going in, and I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Shit, they're using timber for piling. That's interesting.
Well, so raft foundation, I'm guessing that was what it was.
It would have been a raft slab.
A raft style.
Which we
Yeah, and so then, I can understand timber making sense there, where you're going to a reduced depth. So, ultimately, you're probably reducing the cost of your boring and the time that it takes on the boring. And I'm sure someone would have looked at the balance of that in terms of finding out what the better option would be. So I can understand a scenario that timber would be the right selection there. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that quite interesting, that timber's actually been now adopted for piling and huge commercial buildings as well, like a car park.
I'd say that's just going back to what we used to do. Like timber's been used for piles for centuries.
Then we moved away from that.
So it's funny how some of those historical practices start to come back in, and everyone thinks they're all new, and it's like, well, actually,
that's what we used to do back in the day, mate.
Plenty of precedent for this. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Cross-laminated timber.
Mm-hmm.
What's your views on that?
Cross-laminated timber is a great product when it's used properly, and I think this is one of those things. Definitely, back in a while ago now, I was on the board of Prefab NZ for a while there, and that was really when mass timber sort of became a thing in New Zealand, and you had XLAM starting out and all these things, and people just wanted to use CLT everywhere. And
explain to the people what CLT actually means.
So cross-laminated timber.
What's the difference between that and LVL?
Yeah, so cross-laminated timber is you take planks of wood and you glue them together in a cross-lamination. So you run them at perpendicular, perpendicular to each other, and you build up a panel, and you generally make it in a large.
And they glue
panel.
together?
Yeah, all glued together, and it becomes a big panel that you can use for a floor or a wall or whatever the case may be. And used as a floor, it makes a ton of sense because it's two-way spanning because of the running it both ways, and you get your diaphragm. You sort of not diaphragm, sorry, but you get a two-way spanning slab that you can then lift into the system and with a bit of structural treatment turn it into a diaphragm, and so that makes sense. People use it as shear walls. Sometimes that makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And then, I've seen people using CLT for beams and rafters, which just doesn't make sense at all because you've got half the fibre running in the wrong way, and so you're not getting any structural efficiency from it. Just seems bonkers to me. And so
what would you use for beams instead if you had to use?
So that's where you use glulam, LVL. Depending on the needs and the spans, steel may even be the answer.
Steel would be your ideal answer, but yeah.
Well,
I mean, not always.
Not always.
Yeah.
And especially at the moment, and I think increasingly so with everything that's going on in the Middle East, increasing in energy costs, increase in shipping costs, steel is only going to become more volatile and probably head north. And then for any, New Zealand pine supply, we don't have those risks at play. It's all grown here, all shipping's here. And
Manufactured in New Zealand.
Yeah, so there's recently been a real tipping point into timber often being a more affordable choice than steel.
We do have a steel mill though as well.
Yeah, totally.
We have a steel mill.
Yeah, but certainly at Timberspan we've been winning a lot of jobs off sort of steel concept designs that they've had priced. Then we price them and they go, oh wow, and you put it up how fast? So we're going with you. So yeah, steel has its place, but yeah, coming back to CLT.
So come back to CLT, yeah.
Yeah, particularly in multi-rise buildings, sort of 4 stories and above. Yep. It can come into its own there.
So for the use of floor slabs?
Yeah, floor slabs and sometimes in walls and things. But from what I saw a number the other day that was saying for anything 3 stories or less, if you use CLT, you're generally using 30 to 50% more fibre, so the timber fibre, than you would if you were using conventional stick framing. And so that's now becoming a wasteful use of a limited resource, right? And so, is that really the right choice? Well, it'll depend on a variety of factors, but I think there have been plenty of examples where people are sort of saying, yeah, let's use it for single-story construction, and that feels a little misguided to me.
Interesting. So you're a big advocate for use of timber in buildings, then? I
Yeah.
From everything I'm hearing, that's the conclusion I'm coming to.
Yeah. Well, I'm a advocate of
you
using...
don't have a choice, do you?
Yeah,
You went for Timberspan.
Well, no, yeah, but I think, it would be misguided to assume that, just because I'm from Timberspan, I want timber everywhere. Like, I'm an engineer at heart. I want to use the right solution for the right problem. Requirements.
Yeah.
And that's where I take it back. Like, what building do you need? What functions does it need to serve? How quickly do you need to build it? What's the cost metrics? Once you actually understand all those needs, the timber should be a means to the end. It's like it just becomes obvious that we'll go with that approach, or it's a hybrid option.
Yeah.
We did one where people needed. We've done more than one, but one good example where it was a reasonably sort of heavy industry in the building, and so they needed steel portal legs because they needed big gantry cranes. Fine, use steel. And then we had timber rafters, timber purlins, timber girts. So we ultimately reduced the weight of the structure, reduced the foundation costs, came up with a solution that gave the operator the utility they needed. Happy days.
Yeah.
Hybrid structures make a whole lot of sense.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Now, just want to move on to another interesting topic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Form versus function.
Yeah.
We've spoken about the buildings, we've spoken about weight of buildings, we've spoken about use of different materials in buildings.
Yeah.
From your perspective, let's start with explaining to the people what form and function means before we move on to going, hey, what designers need to focus on and why.
Yeah. Okay, so
let's get into your views.
In simple terms, form, what does it look like? Right?
Sure.
Function, what purpose does it need to serve?
Correct.
And when you get good design, you get a nice blend of form and function, where something that looks good and it performs the needed function.
So ideally in hospital, I don't necessarily want my hospital to look really beautiful, but I need it to function really, really efficiently.
Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting. Interesting you mentioned that, because what I've seen time and time again is people get too held up on what the building is going to look like and forget about its utility and the functions it needs to perform. In hospital in particular, so I think it's Royal Adelaide Hospital.
What hospital?
Royal Adelaide Hospital.
Royal Adelaide, oh yeah.
So when it was built, it was the 3rd most expensive building ever built.
Oh, sure.
Ever
really?
built. It's currently sitting
built in
the world.
In the world?
In the world. And
I need to go check out this hospital.
Yeah.
Royal Adelaide Hospital.
Yeah, and it's currently sitting at about 17th because there's been lots of other things underway. And then, so really expensive, you think that building must be perfect. If you go look up Royal Adelaide Hospital, and you will see a litany of operational issues where it's just not performing the function that it's intended to do.
So the architects on that went to town and said, we're going to make it look beautiful to get on the cover of Architecture Weekly.
Potentially.
Who knows?
I mean, who knows? And
I don't know. I haven't even seen the building, but I will go research it now.
Yeah. And I think there's all manner of issues that were at play there. Another case I saw was, a research centre, fairly isolated location, and there was an architect involved in that who came up with this really cool looking structure. I'll give them that. But then there were all these kind of construction issues that were coming up. And, and it was like, how are we going to build it? And I was like, has anyone thought about how we're going to maintain this? And the project had come to it at quite an advanced stage. We were doing some work on it in terms of testing of materials and things. I was like, has anyone actually thought about the maintenance side of things? Oh, yeah, hang on, but this is quite isolated. Like, you can't just, nip down to Mitre 10 and get spare parts or anything. I was like, there's already existing facilities like this. Has anyone spoken to the maintenance teams and how to make their life easy? Oh, no, why would we do that? I'm like, because
someone's got to maintain
the other one's conducting the research.
But I think the question goes bigger than that then, doesn't it? It's forms one bit.
Yep.
Constructability is the next.
Yep.
Like,
really
totally. Got to look at how you're going to put the building together.
Yeah.
Or are you going to have services running up a ceiling where you have to reorganize your scaffold 6 times to put the services up?
Like, Yep. No,
there's constructability.
Yeah. It goes
then there's functionality.
Yep.
Like, then there's maintenance, which you're talking about. There's operation and maintenance.
Yeah.
So you got to look at the whole life cycle then, don't you?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's not just form versus functionality. It's form versus constructability versus functionality versus O&M.
Yes, totally. And I think, though, that projects can often end up misguided at the early stages because it becomes about the form. And I think going back to some of the procurement processes and things, I think that comes down to some issues there where, a client wants a building, they either get a project manager or an architect on board first, and they start sketching things and coming up with ideas, and they sell a vision, right? And then you get the rest of the consultants on board, and they try and bring the project to life. Now, often by that point, the client is nowhere to be seen. And if you speak to most consultants, they always talk about wanting to get closer to the client, but the architect or the project manager is keeping them out there. And then what happens is the commitment becomes to the project, and everyone becomes project focused without actually ever having a chance to understand the needs of the client and what matters to them. And really understand it from the horse's mouth. For this building to be successful, this is what it needs to do. And so it comes through all these filters. By that stage, they've got this vision of what this building is going to be, and everything's just off on the wrong path right from the start. And so, add in all the sort of, contractual issues we're talking about and being driven down on price, and so everyone just sits here and just they try and do the project the best they can, but their commitment comes to the project and not to the client. And that is a big problem, and it leads to poor decision making, which means that the building tenant, who's in there, doesn't get what they need.
And Raji, one of my previous guests, was the one that pointed me to that and said, client first.
Yeah.
Because they're paying the bills and they are building a building for a specific purpose. What are they building it for?
Yeah.
How beautiful the building should look is, if it's not the client's mandate,
and
nobody gives a shit, right?
It's down to the small details. Like, I remember having this explained to me by a facilities manager, where it was in the bathrooms, and they were very, very upset with the decisions that have been made around the bathrooms. Now, that's something I can't understand the money people spend on bathrooms. But basically, someone had decided these sinks were absolutely beautiful, and so they wanted these basins, sinks, whatever, to be there and be standalone, and you could see them. Now, okay, fine, it was a good-looking sink. But the issue with that then is now the soap dispenser's hanging in the wind, the dryer's over there as well. And so when everyone washes their hands, they drop water on the ground, they spill soap on the thing, they go over here, and the bathroom just becomes a nightmare to maintain. You've got safety risks, all the rest of it. And so this poor operational team who are trying to keep the building safe are then dealing with a poor decision. Whereas,
just because somebody wanted a beautiful sink.
Yeah, whereas, built-in sinks where you've got a nice bench with the soap dispenser right there, much easier to keep clean and tidy. Okay, the sink may not look as beautiful, but you're getting the function that you need in a place that does the beauty really matter in a bathroom? I don't know.
Fair question. So all of these decisions get made up front in a project, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's quite critical. So it's all design decisions, not really much you can do once it goes past building consent.
Yeah.
Your scope for improving that change is just gone.
Yep. And so if you want good design, develop empathy for the user. Put yourself in their shoes. What's a good decision here? And that's, again, there's not enough of that sort of design thinking as it is, where you're trying to understand the various users, how they're going to interact, and then use that to inform your decision making. Yeah,
interesting. Hopefully there are a few designers listening to this, and I'll take that on board, mate.
Yeah. I can give you a really good example where this worked really well. So when I was in London, I spent some time doing bid management on big major bids. And at that moment, Network Rail were redoing all their railway stations. And they'd been doing a bunch and getting really poor results, where they were getting these beautiful buildings, but they weren't working as railway stations. I'm like, well, this is a problem, because first and foremost, we need to be a railway station. And so they analysed their procurement process and stuff, and they realised that too often they were getting hooked into a vision before they looked at the function of the building. So they sort of flipped the procurement on its head, and they said, we're going to make these teams engineer-led. And so the engineers are going to lead these consortium bids, where big teams coming together. And then they started getting better results. And after they'd been through that and they analysed it, one of the key things they realised is that the engineers were acting as a filter and making sure the good architects who understood how to blend form and function were the ones that were being picked. And so I think there's something to be learnt from in that, in terms of the way project teams are formed and the way things are traditionally done is not always right, especially when you've got a building where function needs to come first. Most public buildings, for example. Yeah. Get your engineers at the table early and have them help you filter through and find the good consultants who are going to give you good design decisions, because I think they get it better than anybody else. I'd be a little biased on that, but Network Rail saw the benefits.
No, I can tell you're an engineer at heart, and comes through quite evidently. Mate, we need to get you on the design teams cracking the whip on these guys.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, mate, I think we've spoken enough about timber and construction, and issues in construction. I want to know more about you.
Okay.
What floats your boat outside of the timber world and the construction world?
Yeah. How do you stay sane? Lots of different things. How do I stay sane? Surfing, whenever I can. Yeah.
Mate, you're in the Hawke's Bay. Where do you surf?
Te Wonga Point is a good place to go. Ocean Beach is my happy place, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, round and about. Fortunately, being on the East Coast, you don't get quite the same amount of swell as you do on the West. So you gotta strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. But yep. So surfing. I love to travel, get out there, experience different cultures. And I think anyone who knows me would say food is one of my main interests.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're a big foodie, are you?
Yeah, I love food.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah. You should come up to Auckland more often then.
No, I do enjoy the dining scene here, yeah.
Mate.
Hawke's Bay's got a great food scene.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, there's more variety.
Yeah.
Different ethnicities that you don't get back home.
Yeah, mate, you should head down Dominion Road. There's a few nice Chinese places down there.
Yeah.
There's a ton of Chinese places that have opened up.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually enjoy that. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. All right, Tim. Thank you so much for making the time for coming up here, mate. I really do appreciate it. And I've learned more about timber. So
good. Yeah.
Which is
well, everyone needs to learn more about how to use it the right way. So.
Yeah, I get it's really interesting for me because I get varied opinions from different people, and I learn a lot through doing this. You'd be surprised how much I learn. It's insanity how much I learn.
Well, there's a wise man once said, "Without data, you're just a person with an opinion." And so,
that quote's on my website.
Yeah, as it should be. So.
Did you check out my website before?
No, we've been hammering that message at Solutions for years. But or 3M's quote was, "In God we trust, all others bring data," which is another way of phrasing it, right? But construction industry is rife with opinion. Like, get past it, get into the data, speak with facts. If you don't know, be honest.
Yeah.
It really constrains us in an industry because we're terrible gossips, and the
true.
the rumor mill just gets going, and before you know it, people are discounting things before they go in at the time of day, and it's a bad habit, and we need to stop it.
Agreed. Full agreement with you there, Tim.
Cool.
But anyways, thank you once again for making the time, for being here.
No problem.
Yeah, I'd really enjoyed this conversation, mate.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Cheers.
Andy. Cheers.